Welcome to another episode of Out of the Pods. I'm Deepti.
And I'm Natalie. Um, okay, so before we pressed record on this podcast, Deepti and I were talking about slow burn relationships. Like, and I think we have different definitions. Like a slow
Yes.
burn to me is when two people are like they got over the initial attraction and they're just like slowly building this emotional connection, but you think it's something different.
Yeah, I mean, a burn is like you're burning the bridge almost. Like so it's like a slow burn. So you slowly start to ghost a little, you start to talk less and less and less, and you slowly burn the bridge and you're like, "Goodbye." That's how I think about it. Is that not I think that's right.
No, I think it's my definition. I think it's when two people or like two people in a relationship, they're like their
Burning for each
attraction like
other?
no, it means like a candle, like a slow burn, which means
Yeah,
their
it's
attraction just
gonna
builds steadily over time.
okay, the fact that you just said a candle, think about it, it's slowly burning away. That's what it means. It's slowly burning into
Wait,
dissipation.
wait, let me Google this. Okay, define slow
Well, I don't
burn.
think Google is always has the right answers.
Oh my gosh. So Google says slow burn is a state of slowly mounting anger or annoyance.
See, makes
Wait,
sense.
hold on. Define slow burn in love.
Look at Urban
Okay.
Dictionary.
Oh, I don't know if there's Urban Dictionary for this, but this source, Book Riot, says a slow burn is when romantic attraction between characters builds slowly over the course of a novel or series. Slow burns can
Damn.
appear in all kinds of fictions, but romance is renowned for. Okay, that was that was too much info, but I feel like my definition is correct. But do you like slow burns or like this immediate like the fireworks attraction?
Sometimes I feel like when you have the firework attraction, it dissipates over time, but it's like very intense and heavy. And sometimes it stays. I don't know. But I like more of a gradual thing. Like just because I'm an Aquarius, I don't get like very I get
Because
attached,
you're
but
a
when it
Aquarius.
no, seriously, my Aquarius traits, like I don't like to get attached too quickly, but when I do, it takes time for me. Like I love when a friendship turns into a love. Like I love that stuff because I already know the person, you know? Well, what about you?
I
You
think I
like it
like a
hot and
slow burn
heavy right
too.
away? Yeah.
No, I don't. Well, yes, but I was telling you there was a guy I dated in the past, and on date 1, I hated him. Like, I hated how he looked, I hated his mannerism, I hated our conversation, but he was a friend of a friend, so I was like, I feel like I have to give him at least, like, 2 more chances.
Mhm.
So we went on 2 more dates, and by the end of the 3rd date, I was like, "Let me be the mother of your children."
Wow, that escalated really
I was like, "I
quickly.
am so in love with you. I think you are the hottest man I've ever met, and I think your personality is so bomb." And I just didn't know what happened. But the
Yeah.
crazy thing is he was so into me on date 1, and then by date 3, he was just, like, not feeling it. And I was like, "What?"
That's what I hate when men spark the interest in you and you're like, I don't really want to, but then they're like very adamant about it. And then you start to go on dates and do things. And then the it switches and they're like, man, I don't really care anymore. And you're like, you made me like you. And now you just want to like run. You want to slow burn now? Like, I'm like, absolutely not.
I know. But I'm also guilty of doing that too, where
Yeah.
I will be actually like really aggressive about a guy and be like, please. Or no, I won't say that, but I'll be like, okay,
Please.
like, I'll be like, let's go out.
Yeah.
And then I can tell they like aren't really into it in the beginning, but by date 3 or 4, I'm like, whoop, I got you.
Yeah. Maybe
And then I kind of let them go.
you know what it is? Maybe it's the fun of the chase. I actually truly think that it's really fun when someone not this is terrible of me to say, but like someone who's like hard to get, I'm like, "Ooh, I know I can get you." But then when you get them, you're like, "Okay, well, this has been fun, but"
Yeah, this is why I do think most of the time like love is blind because I think I go for guys because I like how they look physically
Yes.
and then I get to know them and I was like, it's not a fit." And then but when I really like a guy for their, like, personality and character, that's when it's like, "Oh
It
my
gets become
gosh."
real. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I'm, like, stuck. I'm like,
Mhm.
"This is gonna be like my husband," and then he's not.
Yes. I know, and then it's like the average looking guys are actually the best ones because they have the most amazing personality and they're so funny and, like because they don't like there's no ego, you know what I mean? They're just like
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's my biggest deal breaker. If a guy shows off, if he is, like, boastful, ooh, I'm out. I feel like that says so much
Mhm.
about a person. I even said that for, like, Love Is Blind. Like, we had little taglines when they announced, our season's cast, and mine
Mhm.
was, like, I think, like, "I don't like men who are boastful,"
Yes.
or that's
Actually,
my deal breaker.
you're right. Actually, I've noticed that about you. You hate when men are like that when they come up to you and they're like impressing you, and you're like, I'm not impressed whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like you insecure man. Like,
Even if they're like, "Well, I work in the finance industry," I'm like, "Next!" Like, anything
you're like
that,
been
like, they're
there.
doing anything they try to, like, do as a little show off, even though if it's, like, as small as it can be, I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, no. The moment you do it, I'm out."
Yeah. Well, there's a way to do it subtly and like not boastful and just be like, yeah, this is when what I did. And I like to do that. But like in a fun way. But anyways.
Anyway, I know I was gonna say, so really fun, something that we did last week is we met Zach and Bliss from season 4. They were in Chicago, so we ended up getting drinks with them. She was
Yeah.
in town for her sister's graduation, and, it was so fun.
It
We
was
didn't post, like, about it, so I don't think anyone knows that we met up with them, but we're
yeah.
trying to keep it, like, very chill and kind of, one thing I really hate, which is weird because obviously we're on social media, is I don't like when people take, like, pictures during dinners or, like, drinks
Mhm.
or, like, an outing, so,
Yeah. And it was great with Zach and Bliss because honestly, I feel like we could have talked to them for hours and hours longer. And they were just so easy to chat with. But we completely forgot to even take pictures until the very end. We're like, oh, should we get like a quick selfie really quickly? Right before our Ubers got there. And we're like, oh, yeah, I forgot. That's when you know you're having a good time, is like you don't have to
yeah.
try to fill the space with whatever else. But
One thing I'll say about them is they are very different than they come off on camera, like, they're very much like, they're more similar than I think they come off on the show.
mhm,
They're like, so loving towards each other. They're, like, big talkers. They're very, like, charismatic in person. Actually, they were on the show, but I think even more in real life, and so
mhm,
it's crazy how, like, different people are,
yeah.
like, on the show versus, like, when you meet them, and I'd say they're kind of
Mhm,
one of those couples where you could see how they really, really fell in love and clicked, and even the way they talk, it's very, like, integrated. They, like,
mhm.
finish each other's sentences and things like that,
Yeah.
and it's very cute, but, um,
They're very
yeah,
much
I
in the
like
honeymoon stage, right, still? You can tell. I'm
yeah,
like, "Wait, it's
and
been
they
a
just celebrate
year."
yeah, they seem like they're, like, these, like, really, like, honeymoony lovers, and I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really cute. That was a fun time, actually.
It was.
Mhm.
I know that we have a pretty lengthy episode coming up, so you wanna get into some Love Is Blind news?
Yes, what's even happening in Love Is Blind news? Let me know.
I mean, really nothing. I did like a quick Google search, but I thought this was really cute. Season four's Paul, who was engaged to Micah, revealed his girlfriend a few weeks back on his Instagram stories.
That's right. That's right. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, and she's really pretty. She's really cute, seems like a nice girl. I mean, from the first views of things.
DP, I feel like, did a little creep on her. But according to People magazine, her name is Geneva Dunham. She's not a reality TV contestant. I feel like they probably met, you know, not
Dating
in the
apps?
reality
Oh.
TV world. Yeah, who
Mhm.
knows? But yeah, to your point, she's very, very pretty.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for him because I feel like his and Micah's like relationship was kind of messy post show, like
Mhm.
how they're kind of going after each other at the reunion a little bit, and then some things that they said, about each other in the media. And
Mhm.
so I'm kind of happy because it sounds like, things with him and Micah are done and he's moving on. And I'm sure she's moving on too.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was surprised that he did, like, such a hard launch right away, and, like, they even
Yeah.
posted like, a collab post together, and I was like,
Oh, I didn't see
"Wow."
that.
I think so. I'm pretty sure they did, and I was like, "Wow, it must be serious," because you know how it is with us too, like, we're very careful on, if we're dating somebody not to really post them until we know for sure, so must be I know, I'm happy for Paul too. It's sweet.
Yeah, so we're happy for
Mhm.
Paul and his new romance, so we're curious to
Mhm.
see where it goes.
Yeah.
Ooh. Um, Another piece of news that I thought was interesting is Bartise from season 3, who was engaged to Nancy on his season, revealed in April that he was the father of a baby boy. We already talked about that on his podcast, but he finally clarified the timeline of when his son was conceived on his new podcast, Talker. So
Mm.
he said, quote, I filmed Love is Blind. I actually had a whole relationship between filming Love is Blind and Perfect Match. Filmed Perfect Match, came back, conceived a son. Perfect Match had not been out yet, had not aired. So I knew if I were going to make the announcement that I had a son before Perfect Match aired, it's going to make no sense to anybody, end quote.
Hmm,
So
interesting.
it, what he's saying is that his son was conceived after Perfect Match,
Right.
after it filmed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, he also said that he is not with his baby mama and that he's going to
Mhm.
keep them private. Like he's going to respect their privacy. So he will never reveal her name.
Mhm.
And then just last Tuesday, he revealed that he had a new girlfriend via his Instagram stories. So a fan asked in a Instagram Q&A if he's looking to settle down. And he said, I'm very settled down with my GF, posted a photo, didn't tag the woman, but I think we could safely say that Bartiz has a girlfriend. So
Wow. Is there love in the
yeah,
air
for these two,
for
for
these 2?
Bartiz and Paul, yeah, not for us. We are talking about body image on this episode. So trigger warning: we will be talking about eating disorders and how we viewed our bodies in negative ways. And so
Mhm.
we just wanted to say that before we continued.
Also, to preface this episode by saying, Natalie and I are going to be talking about our personal experiences, and, we are no way experts on this topic, but we just wanted to share, what we went through growing up and how we deal with it today. And for me personally, I just wanted to say I've never been clinically diagnosed with eating disorders, but knowing what I know now and the behaviors that I exhibited from back in that time, I know that it's consistent to the eating disorders that we'll be talking about today. So,
Okay, so we told you guys through our Instagram page that we were doing this episode on body image. So we're going to answer your questions, at least the most asked questions. So we're really excited that pretty much your questions are going to guide this episode for us.
yeah.
So first question, Deep D,
Yeah.
growing up, what was your relationship like with your body?
Um, it was a tough one because I was definitely more overweight than the kids around me. And for me, because I moved from India to America at a young age, it was already tough for me to fit in. And having that on top of everything else was really hard, especially when I hit puberty. I started to notice that the girls around me looked way different than me. They were very like thin and had like very beautiful features, and I was like not growing into myself yet. So for me, especially because I started having crushes on boys too, it was really tough because I was like, wow, like anytime I looked in the mirror or thought about myself, it was very negative. Like I just hated being in my body, and like I wanted to crawl out of my skin at a young age, which is so hard because you want to love yourself, but it just was really hard for me to do that.
Yeah, I feel like it was similar for me, especially in high school. Growing up, like in middle school, I was actually super confident. I
Mhm.
was like a very thin kid. I was very popular, and then puberty hit, and then my body started changing. And
Yeah.
I just got all these stretch marks because I had grown and my body had changed so much from puberty.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I just remember being like very self-conscious about them. I remember comparing myself, especially in high school, to like my friends who were very like thin and just always looking down on my body.
Mhm.
Um, so I do remember, especially in high school, I think just being really hard on myself and then
Mhm.
wanting to lose weight, which is how I fell into these disordered eating patterns of just
Mhm.
restricting my calories. Um, and then that I continued that on throughout college. And then I developed binge eating tendencies from, my body just being really hungry from restricting so much. And then I
Mhm.
started purging using laxatives. And I was just in this vicious cycle, but it all came down to because my body confidence was based on how thin I was
Yes,
for
absolutely. Mhm.
and yeah, it's just I remember just being so obsessed with how my body looked
Yeah.
and that's what really caused, my eating disorder.
Mhm. Yeah, for me, it was I think because my parents were so strict growing up, I had like a 9 o'clock curfew and I just like needed to fill my time with something because otherwise I was constantly thinking about how I'm missing out on these special moments with my friends that I wasn't able to attend to. And so I think it was like partly boredom, but also like I just found comfort in food. And so I started binging a lot. Like I would literally eat anything in sight. And I'm sure you felt similarly to this is
Yeah.
your mind just shuts off and your body just takes over and you're just like consuming, consuming, consuming without any control. And so that's when I started to realize that I was gaining a lot more weight. And so what I would do is I started to, I developed bulimia, in early high school. Because I felt so guilty about how much I would binge that I had to do something. And I think it was kind of like a release for me. And it was really tough because none of what I was doing was helping me love myself more or love my body more in any way. In fact, I hated it more. So it was interesting that I was in this vicious cycle that really didn't help anything. And so I was just kind of like numb and I wasn't thinking about what I was doing. I was just doing it, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
it was really tough. Yeah.
Yeah, especially like because you were also getting bullied. Um
Yes. It was really tough because the one thing that I was really insecure about, which is my body, I was getting bullied over it. And so I would literally, I remember in classrooms, I would always have this like really giant sweatshirt that I would wear. And if I was sitting in the front of the class and I hated it, even though no one was probably looking at me, I just felt so self conscious. I was like, oh my gosh, like people can see me. I would be scared to even like go into my backpack next to me to pick up pencils and stuff because I'm like, if any movement happens, like people can see you. And so I really hid myself so much. And it's weird because like I wasn't doing anything properly to lose the weight or feel better about myself. I was just continuing this binge purge cycle for some reason. I don't know, it's kind of wild. But it wasn't until later, my senior year of high school, for some reason something just clicked in my brain and I was like, I cannot continue on this way. And I just had a fear that like I think I was just, like, developing my mindset more and, like, kind of becoming more of an adult, realizing I cannot continue this behavior, especially when college is around the corner, like, I have to change, and so something just clicked in me. I started to control my eating. I started to work out more, and, that really helped me feel good about myself, and I started to see the correlation between doing all the right things and feeling good about my body and how it looked and how it felt. So how would you say that you like recovered and built your self confidence back up?
um yeah, for me, I think that since I was stuck in this like vicious cycle of restricting my calories, binging and then purging, um I I think it was similar like you where it's something like clicked and I was like, I just can't do this anymore. And so
Mhm.
I read about intuitive eating and like part of intuitive eating is not seeing foods as good or bad because that's what I did when I was restricting. I was like, I can't eat this thing because it has too many calories.
Mhm.
So kind of getting rid of that mindset, but also allowing me to eat when I was hungry, eat whatever I want to eat pretty much. And really stop when I was full. And that took a while. Like I was still like binging while I was trying to practice intuitive eating until it got to a point
Mhm.
where my binges, like the frequency became less and less. Um, I think it also really helped that in college, I had friends now whose bodies were of different shapes and sizes compared to my friends in high school, where everyone was pretty much like very thin and tall, and so and my friends were so confident, like my college friends, like
Mhm.
regardless of their size, they were like, we're so confident, we love ourselves. And I think that helped me realize like I can love myself
Mhm.
at any body type. Like I don't have to be, extremely thin to feel good about my body. Like that was like my beauty standards, like what was my beauty standards changed once I was in college. And I remember specifically like my junior and senior year of college realizing like wow, there are like different body types that are so beautiful.
Mhm.
Um so yeah, I think that really helped build my self-confidence up
Mhm.
too, is seeing my friends be so confident
Yeah.
regardless of, their weight,
Yeah.
and then also my friends telling me I was beautiful,
Yeah.
like and they just made me feel so beautiful, and I think that's how I got my confidence up and how I, just realized this vicious cycle I'm putting my body in is not worth it.
Yeah. That's so interesting because what I just thought about is my like, having, like, crushes and growing up and them not liking you back, I think was a big motivator for me to change the things that I was doing. And it sucks to say that because it shouldn't be about boys being the motivator to help me lose weight or to do that, but it was. And that's why like during college, my first year of college, I really lost a lot of weight. I Honestly, I wasn't eating that much, which is kind of annoying because it's like the opposite end of the spectrum of what I was doing prior, which was binging. But it was very much motivated by, okay, I really want to like have a relationship. I want to, be finally pursued by guys. And so when I start seeing results on my body, that's when I realized like, okay, I was getting a lot of male attention. And so for me, when I started dating in college, I was in a 3-year relationship. And towards like 2 years in, I think, I started to feel really comfortable with him. Like so comfortable to the point where I was reverting back to my old ways of like kind of binging. Um, and it wouldn't be like all of a sudden I would binge a lot. It would just be like gradual development of it. Like I would just start eating more and then a little bit more and then, full on again. And so that was really tough for me, but it's so crazy how I depended on relationships to guide where I went with my physical body. Isn't that wild that that's like
Yeah.
that was my mindset, you know?
Like your self-confidence was based on male attention pretty much?
100%. I just yeah, I was kind of boy crazy. It's just
Yeah,
wild, but mhm.
that's tough because,
Yeah.
like, I think that sort of, like, insecurity is, it's just really hard 'cause
Mhm.
I think I'm I have felt it too, where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like, the thinner I am, the more male attention I'm getting.
Mhm.
So it's hard to kind of, like, accept yourself at really, like, any weight.
Yes.
Um,
Because you look for
just
validation from
yeah,
external sources instead of from within yourself, and it took
yeah.
me years to learn to love myself for sure, but,
Yeah. I think for me, I remember feeling like that too. Like, wow, I get so much
mhm.
male attention when I'm like thinner. And, obviously when I was gaining the weight that I had lost from restricting my calories,
Mhm.
and also like purging. Um, when I started gaining that bad, I remember like being like feeling like I wasn't getting asked out as much or like
Mhm.
getting hit
Yeah.
on as much, but it's tough. But I remember just being
Mhm.
like, you know what? Like my friends are telling me I'm beautiful and like, I really believe it. And I think I just had to let it go that like the men don't matter. But it's really
Yeah.
hard to do.
It is, because compliments from my friends and family really didn't mean a lot to me, uh, as much as it would like, a male attention type of
Yeah.
thing, which is so crazy, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
One of the questions we received is, Deepti, can you tell us about the significant weight loss before the show? So I think it's something that you actually mentioned on our season, that you lost
Yeah.
like 80 pounds.
Yes. Yes. And again, this goes back to my relationship prior to Love is Blind. I was in a 6-year relationship and it was extremely toxic. But again, like 3, 4 years into this relationship, I felt so comfortable and I realized like I was pretty secure, is what I thought. And so I was again exhibiting those behaviors of binging and not really exercising and being in a stagnant state of mind. And so after that relationship ended, I found out that he cheated on me, basically my
Mm.
whole relationship. And so that really took a dagger to my heart. And I was like, I was focusing so much on the relationship and not on myself and taking
Mm.
care of me. And so I realized I was like, I have to make a change again. And it's like, I think about it and I'm like, wait, I've done this before. I know I can do it again. It just, I have to put in the effort to be a better person to myself. And so that's when I really started working out again. I started, eating right, controlling controlling myself and but also allowing myself to enjoy life. And so yeah, it took me about 2.5 years, a little under 2.5 years, to lose it. And that's why I was in such a freaking amazing place when I got onto Love is Blind.
Yeah, I remember meeting you. I don't know if a lot of people know this. I know you wrote it in your book, but
Hmm.
we were like the first people to
Yeah.
meet each other pretty much. Like you were
Yes.
the first person that I met before getting onto on set for the Love is Blind experiment, like into those
Hmm.
pods. But I remember like meeting you and being like, oh my God, she's so like confident and cool and
Aw.
yeah, you were so like confident going in there.
I definitely remember you were sitting right next to me on the plane too. It was so funny. And I remember thinking the same thing about you. I was just like, oh, she's just like bubbly, confident person. But how was your confidence going into filming? Like, did it impact your experience in any way?
I feel like I was like confident in myself. I don't think I
Hmm.
ever like looked at myself negatively.
Hmm.
I also had worked out a lot before the show. Like once we were casted, I was like, okay, I should probably lose like 5 pounds
Hmm.
um and I had done that and I was also had a personal trainer and so I was in like pretty good shape. And so I think that just led to be me just being like more confident going in. Like I just
Hmm.
felt great, like I felt strong. Not
Yeah.
thin, but I felt like strong and just like full of
Yes.
energy. Um
Hmm.
and did it impact my filming experience in any way? I would say it didn't.
Hmm.
If anything, I felt more confident because Shane made me feel so good about
Hmm.
myself. So I think like the way he viewed me made me even feel more confident. So
Hmm.
I feel like I was pretty good. Like I don't think I ever looked at myself negatively during filming.
Yeah. Well, my experience was the opposite of
I was gonna
yours.
say, I feel like I feel like you were very confident and I remember talking to you throughout filming and I felt like kind of like the light was going away a little bit.
Yes.
Like,
Mhm. Yeah, that's
yeah, I
exactly what
mean,
it was.
how did it feel just having a fiance who wasn't attracted to you physically? Because he never told you that up front. I think you just like felt it, right?
Yeah, I felt it because we were so, like, into each other during reveal, but when I came out, like, in a bikini, he I could sense his demeanor change, and so I felt it within. I don't know, I it was like, the bullying came back all over again, It was, like,
Like what
such a
you
tough.
experienced in high school.
Yeah, and it was like and it sucked because I thought I was in the best shape of my life, which is true. I was in the best shape of my life. And mentally, I was so good. I was like, I love the way I look. I'm strong. I'm lifting weights. Like, I feel so good. And for somebody to not see that in me was so, so tough. And I think that's what it was with him is like, I was like, I'm going to fight. I'm going to allow him to see my worth. And It was definitely so dumb because you again, this is what I'm patterned to do is find external validation, especially from guys, to make me feel confident or better. And I thought I had learned from that, which is why I think Love is Blind was such a test for me. It was like, have you
Yeah.
learned these lessons, that you've been through?
I
So,
could tell you were trying to, like, prove yourself. I had heard that, Shake wasn't attracted to you. Obviously, he told Shane, who told me,
mhm,
and I just assumed that you knew, and even though he hadn't outright told you at that point, but then I
mhm.
also remember seeing you, like, make lunches for him for, like, work and, like, all you're always cleaning your apartment as if you were trying to, like,
Be the
just prove
wife.
yourself. And I remember
Mhm,
being like, "What is she doing? Like, what is
mhm.
she doing?" And I was so happy when you kind of, like, woke up at the end and you're like,
Yeah.
"What am I doing?"
Right. Why am I trying to prove my worth to somebody who doesn't deserve to even see that side of me? And you know what? I think we have to come back to also say, like, I don't think we're upset with him for not finding me attractive, or because I think everyone
Yeah.
has their own cup of tea. Like, everyone has their own attractions, whatever. That's not the part that bothered me. It was the way he was talking about me to others behind my back or in his personal interviews and things like that, and would come home to me and try to be like this perfect, like fun person. And so that was the hardest part for me because he was like, "Oh my God, like I love all of these things about you, but just like the physical appearance or like the physical attraction's not there." And so he kind of like made it seem like there's hope that he can get past it because you just think, "Oh, like is that the thing that matters the most?" And to him it did, but, that's just something I wanted to clarify because people are like, "Oh my God, why are you so offended that he's not physically attracted to you?" And I'm like, "I'm not. It's just the way he handled it that's upsetting." Because viewers
Yeah.
didn't get a lot of the negative comments that he said behind my back. They never aired it. And so, and, candidly, because I lost the 80 pounds, I have stretch marks on my body. I have a little bit of loose skin, and that's normal. But that's what deterred him from wanting to marry me.
Yeah. I know. I think that's really tough because even I couldn't even tell you the comments that I heard he told Shane and the other men. Um, and then we told you when the show came out, like the
Mhm.
really the really horrific comments that he made about you. Like, it just wasn't okay, and I couldn't imagine being in your situation because,
Mhm.
not only are you kinda, like, living through this, but everything is also on camera,
Yeah.
and it's hard to know, like, how to react when it's, like, hitting you in your soul. I remember you and I
Mhm.
talked about this, but, like, it's hard not to act like the cool girl of just
Yes.
like, "Okay, he's not attracted to me, that's fine," but obviously it's gonna really, really hurt you,
It
especially the
definitely
way he
did.
talked to the especially the way he talked about you.
Yeah. No, it definitely hurt, and in the moment, I was pretending that it didn't just to get through it. And then I did have an empowering moment later, and I was like, "Who gives a shit if he doesn't like it? Who gives a shit?" And, it did take me a lot of time to build that confidence back up, but I'm in, like, such a good place now, and, but it really was a big test for me to go through that experience because, again, it's on television, and it's like everyone like critiquing me on my body and what I looked like, which is something I hid from my entire life. And
Yeah.
so it's just crazy how it comes full circle. And this is the test I've been put through, It's just crazy. Well, you couldn't
Especially
write this
body.
shit.
I know,
Yeah.
and I was gonna say especially body you put so much work into,
Yeah.
and you felt so confident in,
Mhm.
and, yeah, it's tough when someone is, like, I don't know, just critiquing that in the worst way on a
Yeah.
public platform.
Right. And I just didn't expect it from him because I thought he was my best friend. So it was tough.
I
And
remember
again, I
that.
want to say, please don't be sending hate to him again because this happened 2 years ago, and, 2 years ago we filmed, a year ago it came out, so, like, we've both moved on from this. It's just I'm sharing my experience about it because it does relate to my self-confidence and how I view my body, and it's one of the most significant things that's happened in my life, so
Yeah.
Mhm.
Some other questions going straight back into the pods,
Mhm.
but did production decide what you could wear or not wear?
No. I
Yeah, we
think
brought our own clothes.
yeah, we did our own makeup, brought our own clothes. That was a tough thing though, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not very good at like makeup and stuff. And camera makeup is so different than like just
Yes.
everyday subtle makeup, right? And so it's just funny because I was like, oh my God, I don't think I know how to do this.
Because you got cut some comments too. Like some people were like, "Oh, she has the wrong foundation color," but I was like,
Yeah,
"What do you want us to do? We are literally like normal girls doing our own makeup
yeah,
for a TV show." Like I was like, I don't
yeah,
know, like give us a break. I remember someone
exactly.
even said to like, "Oh, these were just like a few comments. It wasn't anything big, but like about how I did my eyeliner wrong and didn't accentuate my eyes." And I was like, I'm sorry, but, like, I'm literally, like, what do you think I am, a makeup artist?
I know, I
But
was
I
like,
think that there's
what?
this, like, misconception that people thought we did our own makeup or, like, people dressed us. Like, I remember saying, like,
Mhm.
"Oh, her dress doesn't fit well," and I was like, "Well, it was in my closet, okay?"
You're like, I had no time, okay?
I was like, "Look, I just
Uh,
brought what I had."
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because actually a lot of people were very kind in the way that they did it. They're like, "I'm a makeup artist and I would love to do your makeup. You need to do this and this and this and I love you,
Yeah.
but." And I was like, "Okay, come on in, help me out. Teach me some things."
I know. I remember
Uh,
people being, like, so critical,
yeah.
like, um of some of us, like people would say, like, "Oh, this is such an average looking cast," like, "Oh my God, blah, blah, blah." Like, she dresses like in a weird way. And I'm like, what do you guys want? You guys asked for an average cast after season one, and here we are. Like,
Here we
what
are.
do you want?
Yeah, exactly. Well, as it relates to that, did you find that you were comparing yourself to the other women on the show?
Yes, on day one. Like, I
Mhm.
remember walking in there and I've told you about this. Like, I don't do my makeup well. I don't dress like particularly that well. I wear
I
very
thought you
like
looked beautiful, by the way, on
thank
day
you.
1.
But, I dress like very pretty like conservative and like pretty
Mhm,
just like normal, I would say. Like I'm not particularly unique in the way I dress or in the way I look too. But I remember walking in and being like, wow, these women are gorgeous. And I remember looking at you, Deepti, and thinking the same thing, just being like, oh my gosh, she's like so beautiful. And so I felt a little bit like, I wouldn't say insecure, but I was like, I remember thinking like, wow, these are like the women I'm essentially competing with for like
mhm.
my potential love of my life on the other side.
Yeah.
But then I remembered that the men can't see us, so it doesn't even matter.
You're right. You're like, "Oh, better you I hope you have a good personality and some
Yeah.
good character." Yeah.
I was like, I forget that no one can see your really nice makeup face.
Yeah,
Because some
yeah.
people were able to do their makeup so well. And I remember feeling like kind of envious, being like, I wish I could do my makeup that way.
Yes.
And I was like, wait, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter because like the men can't see them.
Yes, exactly. But you're right. I
So,
also did compare myself a little bit and I was like, holy shit, there's so many beautiful women around here. And but I remember though also all the girls were very uplifting. I mean, most of the
yes, we
girls.
were. Oh,
Yeah, they
yeah,
were
most of
like
them.
most of them were really uplifting and they're like, "Oh my God, you look good." And like we were really like willing to be there for everyone and be like, "Oh my gosh, I love the way you did this. I love this outfit. I love your makeup. You look gorgeous." Like there was really good positive compliments throughout, which
Yeah.
really
And
helped, I
I
think.
yep. And then sometimes the women would help each other get ready. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we weren't allowed to go in each other's hotel rooms. But sometimes it would happen like if one girl needed help putting self tanner on her back, like I would go over and like help, or she needed
Mhm.
help putting on fake lashes and we would help each other. So it was very much for the most part a supportive cast minus
Mhm.
a few women.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty much.
Yeah. And next question from someone: did you feel like there was body type diversity on your cast?
I think so. I think there was a lot of body diversity, especially coming from Chicago. It was so nice to see just like different ethnicities too, but also see that everyone was different shapes and sizes. And I
Yeah.
found that so amazing. Yeah.
I think there was some disappointment. I remember reading about it when our season came out, where
Yes.
they were like, "Oh, like the more curvier girls always, like they never make it to the main cast," which I
Mhm.
completely actually like. I understand that
Yeah.
feedback. I think the women who were curvier, um, they just didn't get engaged.
Yeah, exactly. Their storylines just didn't play out, but I think if they had, then they would have been chosen.
Well, you know what's really funny is I remember that there was a comment of like, why aren't they getting engaged? Well, sometimes it's their choice. Like they're dating
Mhm.
the men and they're like, I don't like
No.
any of them. So they
Yeah.
decide to leave. I think people always think that they may be getting the short end of the stick. But I think most of the time it was more so them kind of like gracefully stepping out because they
Yeah.
didn't find a connection with anyone.
Yeah, and speaking of that, like, the next question here is why were people allowed to talk about physical appearance in the pods? And I think this is an interesting one because I never did. I didn't talk about my physical appearance whatsoever. I don't think you did either.
I talked about my ethnicity. I said that I was
Mm.
Korean, I think on day like 5 or 6.
Oh,
I
see, I
can't
didn't
remember
have to
now.
because I'm deep tea. So people are like, "Oh,
Oh.
that's a little different."
I tried to keep it, pretty quiet. Like, I would still talk about how I'm like, my parents are immigrants, but I wouldn't specify like
Mhm.
Korean immigrants or
Yeah.
immigrants from Korea. But I think it actually started because Shane asked for my last name and I said Lee. And then I think he was like, "Oh, like, are you Korean?" And I was like,
Mhm.
"Yes."
Ah.
So,
G
yeah.
dropping some hints.
Yeah.
But
Well,
there were
I was like,
some
"What am I
other
gonna say?
women.
No?"
Yeah, but there
Go
were
ahead.
some other women who actually talked about their physical appearance. They were like, "I'm
Yes.
blonde and I have big boobs and an ass," like
I
that
thought
type of
that was
thing.
really annoying because as much as we don't want to admit it, when you start talking about your physical appearance, it does play a role. So when, a woman says that she has big boobs and a butt and she's blonde and she, considers herself pretty, like
Yeah, you're like, "Oh."
because
Yeah.
there were 2 women who did that, and they were actually very popular in the beginning
Mhm.
because they had kind of revealed what they looked like. Like, one of the women said that she worked at a really popular, club in Chicago, that with a club that's known for hiring, like, beautiful blonde women, and so the
Mhm.
men already were like, "Okay, so we know that she's, like, a beautiful blonde,"
Yeah.
and so she obviously revealed that on purpose because she wanted the men to know what she looked like. Anyways, but in terms of why people are allowed to do it, I don't think production wants to stop conversations or put those guidelines because I still think
Mhm.
that when someone shares what they look like or has those sort of conversations, it says a lot about their personalities.
Right. That
Like,
they're kind of hiding behind their physical appearance.
or like how they think about themselves. And so I don't think
Mhm.
production wants to put that sort of control onto the conversations.
No, they definitely didn't have much control. They never would have intervened. They usually don't
No.
during the dates and stuff. It's really a free reign. So
Yeah.
again, we can confirm it's not scripted, friends.
Yeah, it's those aren't scripted.
Yes.
What was it like having your fiance see you physically? Interesting question.
That is a very interesting question. I think for me, at first, it was really good. Like, I actually still think that my reveal was one of the top 3 moments of my life, which is kind of fun. I really
Crazy.
enjoyed it. It was, like, exhilarating, it was fun. I didn't know how I felt about my ex-fiance at first, but I was like, "Whoa," like, I feel so much in like one little 20 minutes, but I think obviously when he got to see me fully, it impacted him very much and in turn impacted me a lot. So that was a really tough experience for me. But how about you? How was it for you? Hopefully the opposite.
Oh man, I was what was it like? I remember being really nervous. I remember thinking at that time like, will he still want to be engaged to me after he sees me? I think that's when I started to feel self-conscious about the way I looked because I was like,
Mhm.
it's weird of being like cuz you don't know if like physical attractiveness like changes the game. In my case, it
100%.
didn't, but like for your case, it did. But it's such an
Mhm.
unknown, and so I remember being really nervous. And I remember thinking like based on my conversations with Shane, I think he thought I was going to be like really really attractive. I remember telling him, I'm like, look, I'm like a 5 out of 10. I was like, keep your expectations like
Stop with your
low, okay?
self-deprecating.
No, I remember telling him that, and he goes, no, you're not. He goes, I know you're like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, and I was like, fuck. I was like, I'm
You're like,
gonna
"Those
let this man
expectations."
down. I was like, I'm gonna let this man down real hard.
Oh my gosh,
So
stop.
I remember being nervous. It was weird. I know you say
Mhm.
it was like one of the top moments in your life. At the time, I felt like it was one of the best moments, but then looking back, it was so damn weird.
It
Like
is
it's
really
so
weird.
weird.
And then it's crazy how, like, you internalize it and you think about what the other person thinks of you instead of being like,
Yeah.
"Well, what do I think of myself?" Like, and or being like, What about him? Like, what if I don't find him attractive?" You never think about that.
Yes.
You're always like, "What if he doesn't like me?"
Yeah.
And it's like, we need to change the narrative in our heads about that, you
I
know?
know. I
Yeah,
know.
it's crazy.
It's just weird. It's like
Mhm.
this out of body experience because they seem familiar, but they're not. Their voices are
Yes,
very familiar. But I do remember feeling very like self-conscious at that moment
mhm.
of like my physical appearance and being very
Totally.
preoccupied, like, will he like how I look? I remember being really happy that he did, and that's kind of all that was on my
Mhm.
mind.
Yeah.
So next question. What did it feel like seeing yourselves on TV?
It's bad. You know when you listen to yourself on a voicemail or, like, you listen to your voice back and it's, like, cringy? Like, imagine that times 10 watching yourself on
I know.
television. I was cringing the whole time. I would be so self-conscious, and then I would be watching it with somebody or, my friends would message me or my sisters, and they'd be like, "You look so good." And I'm like, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Like, are you lost?" But I think we're just so self-critical of ourselves when we watch back. But how about for you?
Yeah, I remember also being critical about certain scenes, like when I was watching myself. It's very cringy watching yourself, by the way.
It's so
I didn't
cringy.
realize how annoying my voice was. Like I speak in
Stop.
upspeak where all my sentences go like end in a question. And I didn't realize I did that.
Now I
But
have to go watch it
anyways,
again to see.
yeah, I'm always like, I love him. And
I love
I
him.
will spend the rest, and I'm always like, I will spend the rest of my life with him. And I'm like, do I mean it or am I questioning it? Like,
I think you're
what?
just, like, trying to convince yourself.
But I speak in like what people call upspeak. Like,
I've never heard that before.
you probably hear it now. I'm sure I've done it 1,000 times on this podcast.
Yeah, now I'm gonna start listening to it.
Anyways, but yeah, I remember
Anyways.
same thing. I was like very critical. I'd be like, oh, my arm looks kind of big there, or oh, this
Mhm,
outfit I wore doesn't look good on my body. It made me very realistic of how I
mhm.
viewed my body.
Yeah.
Like, I would say my confidence went down a little bit of being like I remember, like, comparing it to when I, got into the Love Is Blind experiment. I remember just feeling so great, like, so fit, like, I love
Mhm.
the way my body looks, and then I watch it and then you also see people's feedback, like, people saying, "They're such an average cast," like, "She has
Yeah.
a weak chin," like, "Does anyone think, like, Natalie's legs are really short?" And you're just like, "Wait a minute.
The hell?
Okay." And then you start like viewing your body more realistically. And I think in turn that impacts your self
Mhm.
confidence of, okay, maybe I'm not as, like, maybe my body doesn't look as good as I thought it did, type of thing. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, it does, it does. It, like, highlights more insecurities and things that you never even thought of when other people highlight it. You're like, "Wait, I didn't even think about that." And then you start to become more hyper aware of it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that that's what the toughest part about seeing negative comments based on our physical appearance. For me, as soon as the show came out, I think there's so much love that came with my storyline and just how people rallied for me because they're like, this is so unacceptable that someone's talking about you like this on television. And so mostly all my comments were really positive, but there would be a lot, um, especially from Indian men, weirdly. And they'd just
Really?
be like, oh my God, like, of course Shake didn't like you. You're like a cow. Like, or no wonder he didn't like you because your nose is so big, or like stuff like that, you
Oh
know?
my gosh.
I know. And I'm like, bro, I only have one nose. I'm not gonna do anything to it. So for all the people sending me things like you would look so much better if you just got a nose tweak, I'm not doing it. Like people,
Oh my
but
gosh.
that's the stuff that is like hard to see. But you have to really let it go because otherwise it's just gonna tear you down.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the comments don't impact me. It's which is weird. I think it's like I don't know. Like I would read stuff when it's comments about like my physical appearance, I just don't care, but I'm aware of it. Like I
Mhm.
was like, okay, I see what people are saying,
Mhm.
especially when they write it on like my Instagram. But
Mhm.
I think it just makes me more aware that people see, something on my face or something on my body as a flaw. And
Mhm.
for me, I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna accept that
Right.
it's
Yeah, I think
but
all
yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, like going through everything that I've been through in life with bullying about my parents, and especially the show, I'm so grateful for Love is Blind because it really taught me that the opinions of other people don't matter. It's really
Yeah.
how we view ourselves. All the confidence should come from within and not external validation. So I've really learned that, which is such a good place to be in. I'm just like, I don't care what you guys say or think anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but not the negative things.
Yeah. We did get a question like, what are some comments you've seen about your physical appearance and body? I know we just talked about it, but for me, it was primarily like comments about me having a weak chin. I've seen a lot about like how I have a moon face. Um, those are the big two. I got a lot of Hunchback of Notre Dame gifs, like because I have such a bad slouch. But the funny thing is, like, people would try to like defend me, and they'd be like, "She just has scoliosis," and I was like, "No, I don't.
Ah.
I don't have scoliosis."
No, stop
Um,
diagnosing.
yeah, but those are
Um,
probably primarily those are the comments that I received.
yeah.
What
My
about
biggest
you?
ones my biggest ones were about my nose for sure. They're like, "Oh my god, her nose is so big for her face." Broad shoulders. They're like, You look like a quarterback with your shoulders so broad." And I'm like, "What do you want me to do? Shave it down?" Like, excuse me, there's just this. You're like, I don't know what to do. And then recently about just gaining weight.
Yeah,
But yeah. And I don't really care for the physical negative comments. I'm just like, whatever. Try to attack my
yeah.
character, then I'll be upset.
Yeah,
But
because someone else asked, like, how do we deal with the negative comments on our physical appearance? And I
mhm.
think I could probably talk for both of us, but we just
Yeah.
unfortunately don't care. We see
Yeah.
it, we know it, and now I'm aware of my weak chin and my huge slouch, though my mom's been telling me for years about that one, how I slouch so much. But
Um,
it sucks that people
mhm.
feel like they can just write that about us,
Mhm.
especially like DM us about it or write it as a comment on our profiles. I honestly just
Yes.
delete them now. I'm like, F off. Like, I'm not letting
Yeah.
you have this publicly on my page. But I think that we've learned to just kind of
Deal
not
with
let it
it.
impact us.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me that people like it's one thing to just like talk amongst your friend groups or with another person about, a person that you see, a character that you see on television. But to go to their profile and specifically make sure that they read it or that they know that that's what they're thinking and it's something so negative, I think that's where I draw the line, and that's where I lose faith in humanity sometimes because I'm like, who raised you to think that this is okay to do? Like, you're hiding behind a
Yeah.
screen and you're projecting your insecurities onto us, and we have to take the brunt of it, and it frustrates me. It really does.
Yeah. I think that's when I realized people don't really see us as human beings. I mean, just this
Mhm.
happened recently, but someone commented on one of our TikToks on Out of the Pods, like, get this moon face off my FYP. And I clicked on her profile and it's very like this woman's a doctor. She's like a surgeon and she has two kids. And I always do that to just be like, what type of people like leave these comments? And
Mhm.
I was like, imagine if I was like your daughter
Yes,
and you had like a stranger leave that sort of comment. And I don't know.
exactly.
So it comes from, I guess what I was trying to say with that is it comes from everyone, but it's
Yes, it
like
does.
crazy that it just, it like anyone does it.
Right.
And
I
it's fact that
always
like this woman could be like my surgeon one day. Like what and
yeah,
she's like leaving these types of comments. It's like crazy.
it's just insane to me. And it's like it's also kind of wild that they think that it's acceptable even if you are a TV character. Like I understand that you think of us not as real people, but like that's why I think it's important that we do these podcasts and like we show up in
Yeah.
different ways on our social media and talk about stuff like this because we need to normalize ourselves as like we're human and this stuff does impact us.
I mean, thankfully, like it doesn't have a huge impact on us, but imagine
Mhm.
if the impact it has on someone else who is like extremely self-conscious about the way they look.
Mhm.
I thought this was like really sick when people would talk about Irina and Micah and point out like I think that they're beautiful. I think
I
that
think so
Irina and
too.
Micah are like truly, truly beautiful. And it's actually really sick the things that people would say about their physical appearance
Mhm.
because of their edit on the show. I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, you could maybe, say like criticize their actions or whatever, their behaviors, but holy shit, like what is wrong with you when you start pointing out like things about them physically that they can't change?
Yeah,
And also it's like what kind
exactly.
of society we live in when we start criticizing like I don't know, like women's looks, especially women who look beautiful and who are very much normal looking.
Yes,
I don't
exactly.
know.
And
Sorry,
like
I
they
just got
have
like
this
really like
no, it's okay. I totally get it because they expect us to be like these beautiful models that they normally see or actresses. But we're not. We're just regular people and, that we were picked to do a reality show. Like it's
I mean,
just
it goes back
crazy.
to the point where, after season 1 of Love Blind, I remember there was feedback of, "We want, like, normal looking people," and then here we
Mhm.
are.
Yeah.
But this is why, like, quote unquote normal people don't do reality TV because it's these type of people that are open to so much criticism, like
Yeah.
us. Like, the
Mhm.
crazy comments I would get are just wild, and, like,
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, what do you want?" Like, you wanted a normal person, you wanted someone that, like, who just had a corporate job, who wasn't like, you know, who's not particularly unique in the way they look and not stick skinny. And like, here I come, and you still have something to say.
Yeah.
So pick a lane.
Pick a lane, people.
So,
And I also
anyways,
think that you are very unique looking, and I think that you are very beautiful. And obviously, you know that, but just to reiterate it here,
well, I
yeah,
think you're very beautiful. I think all
thank
the women
you.
on our cast were very, very
Hmm.
beautiful. But,
I agree.
um,
I
yeah,
agree.
it's been an
Hmm.
interesting journey.
I know.
It's
Well,
crazy how like thick our skin has gotten
hmm,
since doing this show though. I
yeah,
feel like really nothing can break me
yes.
after Love is Blind.
I completely agree. After what we've been through with our exes, after what we've learned about each other and ourselves, like there's nothing that can really break us. And, it's nice. But as speaking about confidence and how much like we've grown thick skins over it, how do you stay confident about your body and, just yourself in general?
Yeah, I think I'm constantly reminding myself like what I like about my body, what I like about my personality.
Hmm.
And I think that just helps me stay confident. I think I always also remind myself how lucky I am
Hmm.
to just have this life. Just
Yes.
even having a podcast, um, having the friends and family that I do, um, all this stuff, like having opportunities come our way that we could have never imagined before. I
Yeah.
think that's how I stay confident in that, just reminding me how lucky I am.
Hmm.
And again, like I said, like just always pointing out what I love about myself. But what about
Yeah.
you?
I love that you said that because it's true. It's when you focus on the positive things, I think more positivity comes your way. I truly believe in that, like with law of attraction and all of that stuff. But for me, it's definitely when my mindset and what I envision as good practices for myself, when I align that with my actions and behaviors, I think that's when I feel the most confident because I know that I'm doing everything for me properly, and
Yeah.
doing all the practices that make me feel good about myself. When I actually exhibit those behaviors, that's when I feel really confident. And also, you're right, having a good support system by your side when you are feeling down and you can't, feel good about yourself, you have those other people around you to uplift you. So I do
Yeah.
love that also. But
Well, this
yeah.
was such a fun episode to just like talk about it, because I don't think a lot of
Hmm.
people do talk about body image,
Yeah.
especially as reality TV contestants who came off a popular reality dating show,
Yeah. And I think we give
and
it a
seeing
different
ourselves on TV.
perspective. Yeah, we give
Yeah.
it a different perspective because I feel like most people feel really confident, maybe. And that's what I just assume. But like for us, it was like a different journey. We are
Yeah.
confident now, but yeah. But this was a really
Well,
fun episode.
yay. Do you want to close it out for us?
Yes. As always, you guys know we love, love, love getting your questions and comments, especially like the episode today where your questions have really dictated the entire episode, which was really cool. So please continue sending all of that to our Instagram page at Out of the Pods.
And make sure you leave a review and subscribe, because you don't want to miss our future episodes. See you next Monday.
Bye.